Good day, everyone. B2W Software and Dodge Data and Analytics would like to welcome everyone to the second webinar in our three-part series, Exploring Technology Trends in Heavy Construction. So today's webinar will be focusing on field data collection and intelligence. So what I'd like to do is start with just an outline of the agenda, which first we'll go through the research findings that were pulled together by Dodge Data and Analytics. Steve Jones will be presenting that. Then we'll do a contractor perspective with Scott Adams from Trotter and Morton. Then we will give some points on B2W roadmap and where we're headed and what we currently have happening. And then we'll lead into a Q&A session. My name is Doug Seiler. I'm a Senior Business Analyst with B2W Software. And today our guests are Steve Jones, who's a Senior Director at Dodge Data and Analytics. And we have Scott Adams. He's a B2W System Specialist with Trotter and Morton Group. So just a few housekeeping points that I'd like to bring up to begin with is as we go through this information, you'll be able to submit questions by clicking on the chat bubble in the lower left corner of the screen and then typing in the question into the chat bar. You may send your questions at any time during the presentation. Please note who that's directed at so we can sort out who should be answering the question. So we'll collect these throughout the session, and at the end of the presentation, we will address any questions that we have time for. If we're unable to address all the questions, someone will follow up with you after the webinar. So with that, I'd like to introduce Steve Jones from Dodge Data and Analytics, and he'll take you through today's presentation.
Thanks, everyone. I'm in downtown New York City today, so if you do hear sirens in the background, this is just a bonus. You don't have to pay any extra for that today. I'm Steve Jones. I was in architecture for almost 20 years as a principal with a major firm here in the East, and then I did 4 years of construction technology with Primavera. And I've been fortunate enough to be with Dodge Data and Analytics now. We used to be McGraw-Hill Construction for the last 15 years, and I head up our research group. We do a number of different studies. All of these things are free for you. Please go to construction.com, as you see here, /toolkit and reports, and you'll see things on technology, on sustainability, on all kinds of interesting things that are happening now in terms of managing uncertainty and project delivery methods, lean processes, what people are doing for safety and managing risk. Lots of good stuff there, and like I say, it's all for free because companies like B2W have brought us in to do this kind of work to quantify the changes and the trends in the industry, and we make these reports available to all of you guys for free. So this was a really fascinating study that we've been working on with B2W. We worked with 153 different construction companies in the U.S. mostly, some in Canada. And as you can see, what their specialties are, a lot of folks in that heavy civil infrastructure, some general contractors who also do a lot of that kind of work, some specialty contractors who work in that area, and a few construction management firms. As you can see here, we wanted to make sure that most of the folks could really speak from experience about doing heavy civil projects. 83% of them said over half of their work is civil. When we looked at the specific types of work that they do, you can see here all the kinds of projects that you all are probably familiar with, the roads and highways, the site work, the water, wastewater, airports, things like that. And we also wanted to make sure that whatever question we asked, that we made sure that the people who would respond to or were presented with that question to respond to really did have familiarity. So we asked people, which aspects of all these sorts of topics we dove into are you particularly able to talk about? And so we made sure that we only asked people who said that they were at least moderately familiar with the topic would be asked that. So when you see some of the responses, understand that these are from folks within those companies that were knowledgeable about these areas. Overall, we looked at what's happening with the use of mobile, and it is just exploding every place. We asked folks what kind of devices that they're using. You can see how popular smartphones, tablets, and laptops are, and over there to the right, there's even some more breakdown in terms of what specific brands and devices are being used more commonly by those folks. We asked about the impact. What is it that these mobile technologies are positively impacting you as across these various project processes. And you can see some of these results here, though, where people are saying they're very positive or at least positive. Facilitating collaboration is just terrific. I mean, this is a lot of what this study is about. How can we bring specifically the field and the office closer together, make data more agile, make it more accurate, make it more current, right, to really support decision-making more directly from the field, and understanding what's happening across projects, making decisions now in the field, and collecting data performance in the field. So you're seeing that the impact of mobile is really having a positive, beneficial effect throughout this part of the industry. We looked specifically at what kinds of benefits people are able to ascribe to it. Did this increase the data access for those who need it? Yes. Did it improve coordination? Was it actually able to get us in touch in a better way with real-time performance data? Yes. So increased field staff productivity? Absolutely. Right. So you're seeing these kinds of benefits which are difficult to achieve, right, without this kind of important new type of technology in communications. We also said, where do you think this is going in the future? Put yourself 2 years out. What do you think we'll be able to say at that point are the really important aspects of this? And people were saying it's really going to be a lot about project controls, project management, right? Doing a better job of getting that field performance tracking into our project management systems and having that much more holistic look and really having your thumb on the pulse of what's going on out there, because that's going to support us in cost management and accounting. It's going to support us in schedule and resource dispatching, working with our fleets and our pre-construction planning. Terrific, terrific stuff. People are pretty jazzed about this. So today we're going to talk about one specific aspect that we dug into here around how field data is collected and the kinds of intelligence that are being derived from it. We asked specifically around performance tracking, around resource employee hours and safety. So how are you now getting the data? What's difficult about it? Is there lag? And then once you're getting the data, are you finding that it's challenging to turn that into the kinds of decision support information that you need to adjust operations, and how important would it be to you if that were able to be improved? So before we get into that, here's a poll. We want to engage you folks with it. So let us know here, just click on one of these. What's your primary method of data collection in the field? Is it using a purpose-built mobile application, really something that you feel was built for you, they understand your industry? Is it mostly a paper-based system, or do you work mostly with spreadsheets? And so I'm going to show you the results here as we go. We'll give this a few minutes. Just click on one of those things, and we'll all see, as a group working together here, how we're doing. Pretty good usage here of that purpose-built mobile application, but still a lot of paper-based system, and still a lot of spreadsheets. We'll give this another few seconds for any of you who haven't responded yet. Okay, we're getting a little bit more equal here between the three. Interesting. Okay, so let's close that poll. Now we'll have another poll a little bit later on where we'll ask you for your input on some things. So when we did ask, how are you, to this group of contractors, collecting your performance tracking data in the field today? And we gave them a list of things they could do, and you can see here the purpose-built was about 47, the paper-based about 37, spreadsheets about 42. Not too far off from exactly what you all said. So you're pretty much in line with the rest of the survey group. We asked about the means of tracking a resource and employee hours data. And you can see here this purpose-built mobile application, the paper-based system of spreadsheets. Again, similar sorts of proportions. We also wanted a baseline safety data. And here, unfortunately, we're not really seeing quite as much advanced use of the purpose-built mobile application. A little bit softer there, and we're seeing a bit more in the way of a paper-based system and even some spreadsheets here. So I'm going to guess that that probably applies to a lot of you folks too, but that's kind of where we are as an industry right now. And then, as I said, we asked them about the challenges to capturing that data in the field. What is it you think is standing in the way of you doing a better job of that? Clearly, there is some lack of structured data and some standardization of data. That makes, we can normalize and index data so it can flow between tools. That's a really important thing, and people are seeing that there's a bit of an issue with that. The fact that projects are complex, there is some challenges around internet connectivity. Sometimes there's a lack of the people that you can actually put on this to do it. When we asked about the same thing around the employee and resource hours data, this offline paper-based process seems to be the issue that people are having difficulty meshing today with electronic and digital tools. Also, again, there's the lack of structured data and internet connectivity and the fact that projects are complex and that pulls people in a lot of different directions, and it's difficult to be able to actually take advantage of your digital tools here. And then lastly, around the safety data, there really does seem to be this high use of this offline paper-based process, and that just needs to be actively put through a digital transformation process. And again, you're seeing the lack of data and standardization, and it seems that people aren't sure about software that they can use for that, which is good news certainly about the B2W folks, and then that lack of resources. So let me give you one more opportunity here to share among all of us. What's a typical lag time between when information is captured in the field to when you feel it's actually available to your managers in the office that can support decision making? Is it real time or nearly so, just within minutes? Or is it more like a daily basis? Or is it actually more like once a week or even more than once a week, or aren't you sure? It's okay to say that you're not sure. And I'm going to show us all the results as we do this together here. All right, we've got a majority here saying it's a week, and we're actually getting a pretty good shot here of people who are doing it daily. This is pretty impressive. I'll leave this open for just another moment or so, make sure everybody gets an opportunity to participate here. Okay, thank you. So when we looked into this issue of the information lag from field to office, about 42 to 50% said that they're getting data either daily or even faster, right? So that was, I think you guys are actually a little bit better than the whole group, so congratulations to you. Among those data types, you've got the employee resource data has the least amount of lag, but unfortunately, safety and performance data lag a little bit more than that, and they're about equal. But now, this is very interesting stuff to track. This is the kinds of studies that we like to do because we'll come back to this B2W a little bit further down the line, and we'll take the pulse of the industry again, and we'll see how we're improving as an industry by taking advantage of tools such as B2W has. So what are the top challenges once you get information, no matter how you get it in, you're getting it into the office? What are your challenges to making the kinds of timely changes and adjustments that really keep you profitable and productive? And as you can see here, a lot of it's accuracy. And this is really one of the great value propositions of using a digital tool and using a digital platform, because you can be much more reliant on the accuracy of the data you're getting. And it is shown here as being the #1 problem of getting inaccurate data in from the field, as well as followed pretty closely by the timeliness issue. And then this kind of back and forth communication that has to happen to verify it, which tags up to that first one of the accuracy. And then you also have issues around manual time and effort to re-enter data into unintegrated systems, right? That interoperability issue. So, and as I told you, we wanted to find out from people, look, if you were able to do this more effectively, do you think this is going to be able to actually translate into completing projects on schedule and on budget more effectively? And 75% were absolutely yes. 20% weren't sure. Only 5% felt like they disagreed or they strongly disagreed, right? So you really have the majority, everybody in the industry saying, yes, this would definitely help us. We're hungry for solutions like this. So when you look at this aspect of what we studied, the key findings are that, unfortunately, paper-based systems are still being frequently used, and especially for safety data. Paper-based processes and the lack of data structure and standards, they seem to be the top challenges to effectively capturing data. Half the contractors experience data lag of 1 week or more. It's the accuracy and the timeliness which seem to be the biggest challenge. And 3/4 of contractors say, oh, absolutely yes. If I could get this more timely and accurate data, it's definitely going to help complete projects more efficiently and effectively on schedule and on budget. So I'm going to turn this back over to Doug. Let's have a look at what the contractor's perspective is.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Steve. It's a lot of information to take in, so just a reminder, the recording of this webinar will be available to those who are in attendance. So with that, I'd like to follow up Steve's information with the introduction of Scott Adams from Trotter & Morton Group. Scott has a considerable amount of experience in the heavy construction space, so we'd like to welcome him to share some of his experiences with regard to field data collection and intelligence. So I will ask Stevie or Scotty a question here to start with. As we saw in the data presented by Steve concerning mobile devices in use, share with us the areas that you find that have been most positively impacted through the use of mobile devices, and in what ways?
Sure, Doug. So I guess the Trotter & Morton Group of companies is a little unique to being involved in both the heavy civil industry as well as the industrial and commercial industry, so building facilities, pipelines and stuff like that as well. So we do cover a broad array of all the industries out there, and we've definitely see a positive impact from switching over to the data collection of an automated mobile piece within our day-to-day operations. So within the civil group, obviously, that was our starting point, which was about 4 years ago, looking at changing from the paper-based system and spreadsheets that people were using in the field to track the hours, the employee hours, the equipment hours, to bringing in the mobile use of the track element within B2W software platform, and definitely seeing an immediate impact in terms of the information that was available to both project management and even upper management within the civil group in terms of what was going on in the field on a daily basis. So we switched from that week lag to getting that information in terms of resources daily, which was a huge benefit there. It also definitely helped out in terms of integrating with our ERP as well. Previously, before we implemented the software itself, there was that middleman of a spreadsheet that was required to take your estimated budget for the job, populate a spreadsheet based on maybe phase codes and cost types, and then manually enter that into our accounting software. With the implementation of the B2W platform, we eliminated that middle spreadsheet requirement and went straight from the estimating software into our accounting software, and really noticed the efficiency in terms of time it took to create that job and that budget, but also eliminate any possible errors through the manual entry as well. Also within our civil world, obviously recently with the release of the Inform software, our safety documentation and information we receive from the field has increased significantly, as you can imagine, and even seen that lag time almost disintegrate from the week, 2-week period down to minutes, if not daily, right? So that's key information when it comes to safety that our management team is getting it as needed, our project management team and knowing what's going on out there in the field as well. And from there, we've actually expanded into our industrial and our commercial groups with both the time entry side of track and the safety side of Inform, which has happened over the last year. So the management group that have been in those industries have seen a positive turnaround in terms of the information they're given. Also on the client side of things, when we present reports and documents that we're giving them, extremely impressed and I think potentially see us as a leader in terms of turning that information around from the field. So definite impact and benefits with going to the mobile devices and collection of data, both internally management level and even externally at a client level.
It sounds like you've seen quite a broad improvement in the movement of data. Inherently, the construction industry has been pretty slow to adapt to technology and change, but the past 10 years, things have really moved along quickly. Where do you see things heading in the next 2 years and the impact on your business and industry as a whole?
I think, within our business, we'll definitely continue to see improvements through the different divisions as we continue to, build on what we've started here with the introduction of the B2W software. Obviously, within our civil and some of the latest enhancements that have been put out there and releases such as schedule, we'll see an increased awareness in terms of our resource management and the actual scheduling of our projects and how we meet production-wise based on our budgets as we move forward with it. So civil will continue to grow for sure. Obviously, within our industrial and our commercial groups, just the introduction of tracking time in the field has really caused them to have a look at how they actually build a budget on their estimating side of things. Typically, it was done in just man hours, but now we're trying to shift that focus to the actual systems to make it more production-based rather than just look at total number of man hours to complete a job. So that's going to change within our business how we actually look at the whole process from start to finish of a job. But then overall, as a group of companies, and this is one that kind of caught me by surprise when we looked at the what Steve had collected there in terms of the technology trends for the next 2 years. I think safety is going to be one of the key pieces that's going to really take off here in the next couple of years, just by us introducing, the software to be able to pull the data in a lot more quickly, analyze that data based on the information that we get and how we want to see it, and then turn that around to make decisions and impact our overall business on a day-to-day basis in the field. When we talk about safety, I think most people here would say they do have a safety policy that they try and follow, and compliance that goes along with that in terms of when you're supposed to be doing things and who is supposed to do it. Prior to implementing this piece of software, it was a challenge just getting that paperwork in from the field, let alone knowing if it was done a day ago or 2 weeks ago, right? So the culture that we're going to see shift within our group of companies is going to be, I think, extremely beneficial and big over the next couple of years to be able to say that, yes, we're doing what we say we're doing in our safety policy. We're going to look at taking that information and then turn it around to say, yes, we're reducing the number of incidents we have in the field because we know what's going on out there safety-wise. And then in the end, making sure that all of our workers go home at the end of the day and want to come back to work because they know that we're doing this for them. We're providing that safe, productive environment that they can work in for a long-term basis.
Scott, in putting all these technologies in the hands of people in the field, what were your biggest challenges in introducing the collection of data, from mobily and overcoming the challenges of cutting that lag time, the implementation and cutting lag time?
Yeah, it's definitely a shift in terms of the comfort level, I think, for people in the field when they're used to doing it a certain way for however many years. As you said, I think within the last 10 years or so, you've seen a big shift in terms of how the data is collected, taking away from a paper-based or spreadsheet that they're used to a digital collection of it. And obviously we saw that, first we had to decide on a device that we were going to use. I mean, not everyone has an iPad in their hands or a smartphone in their hands, especially for the guys that have been in the industry for 30, 40 years or whatnot, or that familiar with how to use it. So we took the time to make sure we did our research in terms of the devices that we were going to put out there in the field so that they were as user-friendly as possible, but also allowed us to control the content on them and make sure they had all the tools they needed to be able to do their job. On top of that, obviously, was putting a resource in place. right? So when we started the implementation within our civil group, there was a group of people that I was part of that would, look at how we were going to roll this out to the field, how we were going to support it, how we were going to make sure people were trained on it, and then, give them the ability to perform the role as efficiently and productively as possible without any challenges or hang-ups or thinking that we were just creating more work for them in the end of the day. So we took the time to have the resources in place to do that support, did a lot of training in-house with the guys and the people that were using it, and then also we looked at making sure that we had standardized processes, not only within the civil business where we started, but also when we expanded across our whole group of companies, right? Because so now a GM or a project manager could go from our industrial, commercial, or civil group and say, this is how we look at things, and they would see the exact same thing that another project manager or another GM would see on the other end as well. So standardizing all that made it a lot simpler. And then when we did actually go to the field, we started out with smaller test groups of people. We didn't look at implementing right away across the whole fleet of supervisors that we had. We took it, within a couple of people who we felt could handle a little bit of change right up front, but also provide feedback for us as well to say what was working well and what needed to be tweaked. And it allowed us to be a lot more reactive to them to make sure that when we were ready to roll out across the whole company or even the division, we had all our bases covered in terms of supporting them at any given time.
That seems to be a common approach where a lot of people are doing that, where they're not just throwing everything at everyone at once, establishing a good path with a group, and then passing it on throughout the company. So that approach seems to be pretty successful. Is there anything in general you'd want to add before we move on to just where we're headed as a company and what our focus is on?
No, I think from what we've seen with Steve's numbers here in terms of the shift, you'll definitely see that a lot more. And like I said, I think as people become more aware on the safety side of things out there of what could be available to them and the ease of use in that, I think you'll see the safety kind of creep its way up the list in terms of benefits and impact on their business. I mean, we all know that keeping a job on budget and within schedule is paramount to, companies staying in business out there, but also reducing the number of incidents and the cost that goes along with that as well is a big factor that plays right into that. So it's definitely, I think, something that we experience, and I think you'll see in the coming days within the industry overall.
No, that's great insight, Scott. We appreciate you participating with us in this event. I just wanted to go on. I think what ties in well with what we've been talking about is we're trying to get more and more technology into the hands of the users in the field. Get as much as you can on a tablet. So at B2W, we're continuing to build and improve on our one platform that focuses on heavy construction and taking each of the elements within our system and getting them into the hands of the people in the field. We recently introduced our schedule product this past spring, which really ties together the resource planning aspect of operations management. So we continue putting these mobile tools in one app, in one platform, so that the same manager that's analyzing his performance in the field can submit a needs request for resources to the scheduling group. He can enter a request for repairs on certain equipment that goes to the maintain group. So all of this stays in the hands of the individuals in the field in one application where they don't have to be using multiple methods of communication. So that our focus is really on bringing simplicity to the communication across the full operations of a business. Our maintain product continues to be a real buzz with the mobile management capabilities. It's putting a tablet in the hands of the mechanic in the field that can submit work orders, that can send this information directly in without having to write everything on a greasy piece of paper. So it's been a really huge year of just getting mobile applications out in the hands of people that need it in the field, and we're continuing with that development. So what we'd like to move on, we've got some questions that have come in, and in the Q&A session here, we have a few minutes left. I just want to remind everybody this, we do have one more session coming up with fleet equipment maintenance and management that'll be on July 11th as well. So we do have a question for Scott. Do you have any tips or advice for companies trying to roll out mobile technology to people working in the field?
Yeah, as I said, I think as long as the companies take their time to ensure that they know what they want to receive back in from the field, so you're structured in terms of the information you want to capture, but also that you've researched the device that you're going to use, make sure you have the proper support in place for that. And on our end as well, I mean, just as recently as allowing myself to connect to iPads to be able to see what the user is doing in the field, because sometimes it's difficult to talk through people on a phone in terms of home button and swipe up and everything else. So being able to see what people can do in the field, I think, is key as well when you're going to roll out something like this that is new for them. But at the same time, make the commitment to test this out with a smaller group first. It'll definitely help work out any bugs, any issues that you may see out there or may experience, as well with depending on location and stuff like that. One of the issues was internet connectivity. That was a challenge. We have also made the decision to switch all of our iPads to be LTE enabled rather than having them hotspot through their actual cell phone, which makes it easier for them to be connected at all times without the requirement of connecting to that hotspot. So that was, I think, a welcome thing from the field for sure in terms of implementing this.
All right, we've got another question for Steve. In your opinion, why is safety such a particular challenge for eliminating paper? Does it have to do with compliance to safety regulations and outdated government forms, or something else?
I'd say that nails it pretty well. An awful lot of people, since it's such a highly regulated part of the business, an awful lot of people want to stick with what they know rather than trying to change to something else. And, of course, it doubles the effort if you try and run two things in parallel. So what we've seen in the studies that we've done is we work in a very peer-influenced industry. So the degree to which people see well-known companies who are doing things in a new way and using these tools, they tend to believe, okay, well, if they can do it, it's probably going to work for us. And so, I was very jazzed to hear the focus here that safety is going to be, you're going to see a lot of advance in safety, because we believe that it's very important also, and that there's a lot of benefit that can be had, especially in analyzing more efficiently the safety data that you get, so that you can do a better job of being preventive. And that also, as that grows, I think that may be the most effective lure for folks working in the field to bring them into using digital tools. It's one thing when they think, oh, I'm just making those guys back at the office's life easier by doing this thing. There's no benefit to me. But as soon as now you can begin to say, by doing this, we believe we're going to get this kind of improvement in safety, and then keeping on reporting and encouraging feedback as you do it, and it does reduce recordable incidents, or it does do a better job of predicting things which can be mitigated in advance. Now you've got the attention in the field in a way that's very difficult to do any other way. I think it's a terrific confluence of events, and I'm very excited to hear that people are focused on making that better.
That's interesting that part of that question referenced government forms, and I don't know, Scott, maybe you guys have gone to this point, but within Inform, as you capture your own information in the field, whether it's accident information, you can have that automatically feed a form that's set up within the system that doesn't have to be filled out again. It can automatically feed a PDF that you can present to OSHA. So you can eliminate a lot of that paperwork, and I think we are getting to that point in technology where the forms can be automatically filled out instead of going back to an office and filling out the government form that is different from your own in-house form.
We haven't gone down that road yet. It is something that I've looked at for sure, and somewhat initial development of it. Again, we were strictly mainly looking in-house to begin with the forms that we have in the field and everything, in terms of what we're releasing originally. And now those forms, we really only focused on 5 to begin with, right? What was required as part of our policy for the guys to do it on daily, weekly, or monthly basis. So, because we wanted to make sure compliance-wise we were where we needed to be in case anything needed to be presented to any of those regulatory bodies for sure.
All right, that's helpful. We are running a little bit tight on time. So, Steve, here's another question for you. How does the push of data from the field and digital workflows compare to other, in heavy civil sector, compare to other sectors in construction? Is it unique, or do you think it's just part of a larger pattern?
Yeah, the shift towards integrated digital workflows is a major pattern across every aspect of construction that we see. Quite honestly, it's been more established in industrial than it has in commercial or in civil. And so we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. It's a matter of being aware of what has worked in other parts of the industry. It's simply adapting those same things. But the more that you can integrate discrete and disparate players through an integrated digital workflow, it just takes the guesswork and it takes the repeat work out of what we do. I mean, there's some figures that go on about from the Construction Industry Institute about the productivity in this industry and breaking down what some of the non-productive activities are. And there is an awful lot of re-entry of information. There's a fairly significant chunk of that non-productive time. And if you can get people to realize that by participating in these digital workflows, that's one thing that they can immediately pick up a productivity lift, nobody would argue with that.
So with the time at hand, we've got another couple questions that have come in, but I think we may have to move on. So I want to thank the presenters and thank everyone on the line for attending today. You should receive a follow-up email in 24 to 48 hours with a link to view today's recording. So that should help in looking at all the analytics that has been presented. So on behalf of Dodge Data and Analytics and B2W Software, thank you for joining us and have a great rest of your day.